What's going on, everybody? It's EricRayweather back here with weekend 2 of the Madden Championship predictions. Just going to go ahead and recap last weekend real quick in my predictions. I wound up going 5 out of 8, so I got more than half of the competitors right. Really feel like I should have been 6 out of 8 on my predictions, but I'll get into that in a minute. So for Group A, I had Skimbo and Killer Mike coming out. Thought Killer Mike looked really good these last few months. He was one of the hottest players this year, and then you have a guy like Serious Mo by Serious Mo standards this year has kind of had a bit of a down year. But Skimbo did wind up coming out of the group along with Serious Mo, so I was 1 for 2 in this group. Group B, I picked Kiv and Joke to come out of that group. I got both of those guys right. Both guys looked really, really good this weekend, or this past weekend. Group C, I picked Strafing and Lights Out. Strafing did advance, but instead of Lights Out, Beast Mode Mac wound up advancing, and this is where I feel like I should have been right. Lights Out, first off, Beast Mode, Strafing, and Lights Out all went 2-1, so they all had a phenomenal group. And Estella went 0-3, so Lights Out was the odd man out due to point differential. But everybody that was watching the games pretty much was in agreement that the Lights Out versus Beast Mode game, Lights Out just was on completely the wrong end of all the breaks. You know, not to take anything away from Beast Mode Mac, he is one of the best players this year for sure. But in that particular game, he definitely had the luck on his side, and Lights Out really played the better game and should have won. And had he won, he would have been advancing. But that's the way Madden goes sometimes. So I was 1 for 2 on this group. Now in Group D, I picked Problem and Scheming. Problem, obviously, no real need for an explanation there. I thought Scheming, much like Killer Mike, had looked really good these last few months. He even won the Vegas tournament. He was playing really strong, but he didn't have his best day. He played decent, but he didn't have his best day. And Problem and Little Man wound up advancing out of this group, so I was 1 for 2 on that group, making me 5 out of 8 for that weekend. Now for weekend 2, let's see if I can get some see if I can get better than 5 right this weekend. So for Group E, no question for me, I'm going Trueboy and Los. Trueboy, definitely a top 5 player this year. He always brings something new that everybody else isn't running, so that gives him a leg up as far as people, you know, they have to play against something that they haven't seen before, and he executes better than most. You know, he's consistently making those final 8s, and then seems like he just makes that 1 or 2 mental mistakes in a game and it costs him. So he's been really close to, in my opinion, being able to take down a couple events this year. You know, if he just had 1 or 2 less mistakes, he could have kept his momentum rolling and possibly won the whole thing. So he is one of my favorites to win the whole thing. It would be foolish to think he's not coming out of any group, because he pretty much does that with ease. So I'm definitely picking him. And then I'm going with Los. You know, pretty much every year that he has played this game, you know, he's an old head, much like myself. You know, really came on the scene strong in 08. You know, I used to play him on Gamer Saloon back in 08, and he used to always take my money. He's just been a tough player. Every year that he's played, he's pretty much been a top 5 player. He's another guy like Lights Out and Skimbo that has always been, you know, they've been good, but he's just can't quite get over that hump. You know, he's lost in Final Fours, he lost in championship games. You know, he lost the Buffalo Club Series earlier this year to Bread, where he got some unlucky breaks. Just seems like he can never get over that hump. In Madden 10, he almost won the whole thing. He was in the Final Four, made one slip up against Problem, lost the game, and then Problem went on to win the whole thing. You know, had he not made that one slip up, Los more than likely would have took down that event. He was probably the best Madden 10 player. I think most people would agree. He didn't win the Madden Challenge, but he was so good that year. So just a guy that can never truly get over the hump, but he would be a guy I would love to see win the whole event, and a guy I definitely expect to come out of this group along with Trueboy. Now, Group F, this is pretty easy for me as well. I'm going to go Duke, and I'm Wild. SpotMePlz did win the first event, but he just hasn't looked nearly as good since then. Monsta's kind of an up-and-down player. Sometimes he looks completely unstoppable, but then other times he shows his inexperience and just completely just destroys himself. So, you know, Duke, another old head, he puts more time in on the game than most people, maybe more time than anybody as far as labbing goes. He's always got something. He knows what he's doing. He's, been consistent for a decade, so I'm going with him to get out the group. It shouldn't be too tough for him. And then I'm Wild, a fairly newer guy, but he's been very, very good last year, very good this year. I don't see him having a problem coming out of this group, and he's from my home state as well, so definitely would like to see him take this event down too, just because, some hometown love there, so definitely expecting him and Duke out of this group. Now, Group G might be the toughest group of the entire tournament. It's really hard to pick two people out of this, but I think you have to go Dubby and Hollywood, just because it would kind of be foolish to bet against them. Hollywood has probably played more actual games than anybody else this year. He is battle-tested. Him not coming out of a group would just not seem right. Is much preparation as he's put in on this game. And then you got Dubby, again, another guy that's played a ton of games this year. He won the Madden Bowl as the underdog. Salary cap is his game. He didn't do good in the Draft Champions event, but that's not, I don't think that event suits a guy like Dubby. Salary cap, when you can build your own team, really suits a guy like Dubby. So I expect him in Hollywood to come out of this. I really like Millz. I would like to see him find a way to come out of this, but he's one of the best, maybe the best defensive player in the tournament, but he just lacks on offense. So unless he's come up with something on offense, from the last time we saw him until now, I think his offense is going to hold him back. And Figgy's a guy that this year, he won a Vegas tournament as well, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him come out of this if he found a way to come out too. Figgy's the type of guy in a few tournaments this year, he's caught a lot of momentum, and when Figgy catches momentum, he is really tough to beat. He could easily go 0-3 in this group, but if he comes out of this group and catches momentum, he's the type of guy that could win the whole thing. Like, he's just that type of player. So this group is really hard to predict, but I'm going with Dubby and Hollywood. Is just the more experienced, they've played more games, it just seems like the right pick. Now, Group H, not really too. Well, I'm not a fan of many guys in this group. I do like Boogz. I think he comes out of this easy. I mean, Boogz not coming out of a group would be weird. He's consistently a Final 8 type of player, and then it just seems like he'll run into that one guy that just kind of either locks him up or he just doesn't have his best game against him, and that's where he falls off in the tournament. But, Boogz not making it to the Final 8 would be weird. He's just consistently doing it. It would be foolish to bet against him. And then I'm going to go with Franchise as my other pick, a little more of the underdog pick, but I've seen a limited game of him, but I like his game. I'm not a fan of Volertax's game. He bases his offense too much around the swerve. Even if he does come out of this group, there's no way he's going to win the whole thing. I just don't see it, because he's going to run into somebody he's going to have a hard time swerving against that one person, and then he's done. Kerry Q's a veteran, consistent, played a lot of games. But I just don't know. I'm not feeling the Kerry pick here for whatever reason. He seems like a guy that might just go 1-2, and I can see Boogz going 3-0 and Franchise maybe going 2-1. So I'm gonna go Boogz and Franchise out of this group. So that's my predictions for weekend 2. I'll be back next weekend with the final single elimination predictions, and I'll recap this past weekend. So definitely enjoy the event. Check it out later today. Drop a comment below with who you think's going to win and all that good stuff. Let me know who you're rooting for, and I will see you guys next time.